Oh, well, hey there. Good morning, Proniacs. It is Pronoia morning, and continuing my story with chapter 3 called Working with Others. So, the next thing that I remember, Dad has a house on the golf course. My mom has a house where we were previously living that I love. The cul-de-sac, the neighbors. There was another neighbor named Ryan who was really good at skateboarding. And I always wanted to be very good at skateboarding. No matter how hard I tried, I could not ever be anywhere close to good at riding a skateboard. But I would always like to ride behind a bike and use a tow rope like I was skiing, which I used to do in Lake Chelan. I learned how to ski very early, and we spend a lot of summers in Lake Chelan in the water on the lake. So that's where I feel most comfortable, is by the water here. Just enjoying the sun, the warm atmosphere. The way people react is different in a hot, warm, calm, and by the water atmosphere than they do in the city and during other times of the season. So working with others, what I remember next was I have a big surprise coming, said my dad. And so I'm standing outside waiting we had some arborvitaes there out in front of his house on the golf course. And this kid and an older kid show up. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what the hell is this? New friends, like I like to make friends. I think at the time I did. And his name was Brett and Ryan Smith. So another Ryan. It's like everybody's Ryans. And at this time, I think I was still called Ryan because my name didn't change until shortly thereafter when I became and was anointed the name of RJ, and that stuck with me forever. I was the name changer. I was the oddball, that black sheep, and that happened throughout this entire way moving forward. I was the outcast. I was always the middle child, but always the one who was willing to take the blame. It was always on me that when something happened, it had to be RJ. Because I was the one getting into trouble, and that was my, that was what I was known for. So his name was Brett Smith, and I was out catching bugs as I did when I was 5-6 years old, and he joined me, and that was a fun time. We were catching butterflies, we were looking for caterpillars, and I really enjoyed that, is what I remember. And then moving forward, that was the most joyous time I think that I had, with the exception of the dance parties and the choreography that we put together in our downstairs when we were about, I would say, 10 years old or so, when we moved to out of Oak Harbor and into what is South Kitsap or Port Orchard. That's moving far along. So I had 2 new members of my family now that were Brett and Ryan Smith, in addition to my sister Renee. And in addition to that, on the other side, my mom was seeing this guy named Rick, and Rick was a strict guy. So he was always laughing funny. He had a quirky sense of humor, but also was very strict. And he was rooted in faith, and he was always going to church and speaking about God, which was good, right? I mean, it helped develop and eventually procure my faith in my religion and in God and Christ and Jesus and in my faith. And so that was part of the declaration, I would say, of the divorce, was that I was to go to a Christian school. And so I did when we moved to the South Kitsap Port Orchard area. But going back to Oak Harbor, I know it's hard to follow. I had a couple of friends. One of them, his name was Colin Berner, and the other, as I mentioned before, is Ryan Elvaback. Colin Berner was a derelict, to say the least. I mean, to this day, he's been in and out of jail so many times. Every time I ask about the guy, he's in jail for something and whatever he's done. And following him on Facebook is just a trip. It's just back and forth of, oh, I love my family. Oh, I'm in jail. I just got out of jail and I'm changing my life. crazy times, and that was the guy who, it fed into my rebellious activities. Like, he's the one that I could go to if I wanted to be an outcast, that black sheep, if I wanted to really shine my inside rebellion, and we go out and cause trouble. But he was also, the side note, the one person that really said, he looked to the good side of things. So I was a fat kid growing up, and this is moving right along. But I was a fat kid, ended up growing up, and he was the one, what I distinctly remember, who said, the more weight you have, the stronger you'll get, because your legs have to carry that weight. And he also made mention to the fact of something of, you're a skinny guy living in a fat guy's body. So eventually, you get strong enough to get the weight off. And I never really believed that until that point. And that was probably when we were 12, 13, 14 years old when he told me that. And it stuck with me to this day, because he shared his belief in me that I could be skinny. And everybody else just decided to tell me how fat I was, and, that I ate too much, or it was just the fear of being fat, and how everybody would heckle me, or tease me, or bully me about that situation. But before that, I guess it was a good time coming, because I was a bully in my younger years before that, my 7, 8, 9-year old range. And even further into that, when we were in Port Orchard and I was in that Christian school, I was kind of a bully. I ended up in the principal's office several times. So that's my relationship kind of with others. And building that relationship with Brett and Ryan, they were always together and had each other's backs. Renee was trying to fit in with them, and so she would jump on the bandwagon with anything that was happening that they could put against me, I felt. So I always had a really deep connection with my sister, so whatever she had done, I always forgive her for it. But I always held resentment against Brett and Ryan if they were to do something that really upset me. And I was left out of a lot of activities with their friends. We had this neighbor named Lucas Horbin, and they would always play with Lucas. He was an older kid, and he was a really good golfer. He ended up going to college in California. I don't remember the college, but to play golf. He got a golf scholarship, which my dad lived on the golf course, so naturally he would probably play daily. But they would play these different games and have these inside jokes, and I had no idea what was going on or what they were about. And so I tried and be included, and immediately I was the exclude. Like, there was no fitting in. I guess I just had that personality that I wasn't going to fit in with the older kids and their good friends. Like, Brett was a good friend of Ryan, and so they obviously fit in. But Brett was also younger than me, so he was able to, we were able to play together, and we became decent friends. But it was tough during those times when you're trying to just battle it out for yourself, and you don't seem to have much support from your dad either. It's not like your dad could say, hey, you got to play with RJ, right? So I was kind of on my own, doing my own thing, and develop that independency that these are the things that I like to do, and if you want to join me, you're welcome to join me. But I'm not going to cater to what you guys are doing, because if I try to do that, I feel that I'm just going to get excluded anyway. I think that developed early on in life during those years of 6, 7, 8. I distinctly remember those times as that happening. Like, everybody's growing up, everybody's getting into their own identity, and I was definitely more rebellious, getting in trouble more often than not. And I guess nobody wanted to be around that, or it wasn't appealing to the people that were trying to, just have fun, have a good time, and be compliant, I guess you'd say. I don't know a better word for it, but developing that independency helped me to this day, not having to fit in, and knowing that I can be who I want to be and attract the people that want to come along the path, but I don't have to try and fit in. I don't have to try and be popular. And that went into high school as well. I was never the most popular, never tried to be the most popular, but I did like to be involved with the things that I like, such as football and sports and being competitive. I didn't much like weightlifting, but I got into it for a small time just because it was important to football. But I think that's where we'll stop now, and then we'll continue on around 10 years old in the move, the bigger change between the separation of family. I guess there wasn't a lot on my mom's side as far as change, other than Rick. That was the only situation that happened until I turned a little bit older and moved out, and then a couple more came along, and we'll talk about that later. Thank you for joining me today. I guess today was about working with others and how, if you are the outcast, the black sheep, how to develop your own independence. All right, thanks for joining me.